Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Do you know why Xiang Tzu still feels forgotten? Like every time Nekki releases a balance update, many players get excited. Maybe this is finally the patch that brings him back into the meta. Maybe this is finally the update that fixes his biggest weaknesses. But every single time, it feels like nothing really changes. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Nekki has completely ignored Xiang Tzu over the past few years. They've actually given him several buffs. His rage lasts longer, some of his talents have been adjusted, and on paper, he's technically stronger than he used to be. But here's the problem that nobody talks about. Those buffs don't fix the reason many players stopped using him in the first place. The biggest issue has always been survivability. Xiang Tzu is a hero built around aggression. Like for example, his entire identity revolves around entering rage and overwhelming his opponent with pressure before they can react. Like literally, that's what makes him fun to use. That's what makes him unique. But in today's meta, he often doesn't survive long enough for that identity to matter. And before anyone says that you are just bad with Xiang Tzu or you are just not playing him correctly, let me give you some context. I'm currently the top 1 Xiang Tzu player, and my friend Dark Prince is also one of the highest ranked Xiang Tzu player. Between the two of us, we spent thousands of matches learning every matchup, every talent build, and every possible way to make this hero work. We tested almost everything. Different builds, different strategies, and different team compositions. Even after those games we played, we both reached the exact same conclusion. The problem isn't about Xiang Tzu's damage. The problem is his survivability. In fact, if Nekki came to me today and said we're gonna lower Xiang Tzu's damage, but in return we'll significantly improve his defense, I'd accept that trade immediately without even thinking about it, because that's what he actually needs. People always think Xiang Tzu needs more damage. I disagree. He already hits hard enough. The issue is that against today's strongest heroes, he often loses so much health before he can even take advantage of range. And that's where the frustration begins. People always say he's supposed to be a glass canyon, but even a glass canyon needs enough durability to actually play the game and use its strength before dying, right? I mean, let's look at the current meta. Ironclad, Sarge, Kibo, E2, Lynx, etc. These heroes are unbeatable. I am beating them all, but beating them once isn't the question. The real question is how consistently can Xiang Tzu beat them against players of equal skill. That's where he starts falling behind, because he has to work twice as hard and play almost perfectly just to stay on equal footing, while those heroes have far more room for mistakes. Let's have example of these metas. First take Ironclad. He's a hero who gets rewarded for taking damage. Every hit you land makes him harder to kill through stubbornness. He can trade hits with almost anyone in the game, and many times he'll come out ahead simply because how tanky he becomes. Meanwhile Xiang Tzu is doing completely the opposite, constantly risking his own health just to deal meaningful damage. If both heroes make the same mistake, Ironclad usually survives and Xiang Tzu usually doesn't. So what about Sarge? Of course, how can we forget about him? He controls the face of the match better than almost anyone. One mistake against him can easily cost you half of your health, whether it's through his pressure, his guarantees follow-ups, or simply forcing you into bad situations. Sarge constantly punishes Xiang Tzu for taking high risks that his kit forces him to take. And here we have the Xiang Tzu's main weakness, aka E2. One wrong guess, one missed punish, or one opening, and suddenly you lost a massive portion of your health before you even had the chance to start your offense. I don't even need to talk about Kibo and Midnight. Their sheer speed constantly forces Xiang Tzu onto the defensive before he can establish momentum and pressure. He's already dealing with theirs because they move faster and recover quicker than he does. Midnight can also constantly escape pressure and reset the fight entirely. And Azuma on the other side. I completely understand that Azuma is designed as an anti-shadow counterpick, which is totally fair, but after his rework and addition of his weapon, the matchup feels much more punishing. He can build shadow energy incredibly quickly and enter shadow form much earlier than before. If he catches Xiang Tzu with a one successful shadow combo, you are suddenly missing a huge chunk of your health before you have any chance to build momentum. There's another psycho called Jack Bulwark. Anyone who played against a good Bulwark knows how devastating fractures are for Xiang Tzu. It's not just the immediate damage from his attacks, it's the damage that keeps taking afterward. Your health doesn't just disappear, it keeps melting away every second while you're trying to fight back. Against a hero who already struggles defensively, that residual drain is catastrophic. Now before anyone says I'm calling Xiang Tzu completely weak, I'm not. There are plenty of heroes that Xiang Tzu can absolutely beat, such as June, Cobra, Hongju, Helga, etc. Those are winnable matchups. But being able to beat certain characters doesn't automatically make a hero competitive at a top tier. In fact, take heroes that many people don't even consider top tier right now, like June or Cobra. They both have strong damage, but they also possess defensive tools or unique survival mechanics that help them stay alive longer and constantly stay in the fight. Xiang Tzu, on the other hand, feels like he only has damage, and after his previous historical nerfs, even the offense is nearly as threatening as it used to be. Let's talk about the problems nobody talks about. Beyond raw defense takes, there are several design decisions that have slowly made Xiang Tzu fall further behind the rest of the roster. The first one is Rage itself. Rage is supposed to be Xiang Tzu's biggest strength, but instead it often becomes his biggest weaknesses. Unlike many other heroes, Xiang Tzu has very little control over when he enters Rage. Once it activates, both players know exactly what's coming. Against experienced opponents, that's actually an advantage for them. Instead of panicking, they'll simply wait out your Rage, play entirely defensively, and punish you while you are taking massive risks. It makes him completely predictable, and now, because his defense are already low, every single mistake made during Rage becomes incredibly expensive. Another issue is how many of Xiang Tzu's older strengths have gradually disappeared over time. Compare today's Xiang Tzu to the version from a year ago. Back then, his attacks felt far more threatening, right? Players genuinely respected his offense because making one mistake against him carried a massive penalty after the nerfs. That high threat identity slowly disappeared. His offensive pressure was toned down, and his healing options became very less effective, like the immediate payback. And his weapons are nerfed, like the healing weapon, for example. It got nerfed like few years ago by reducing the healing amount. And yet his defense never received any compensation to balance it out. Meanwhile, other heroes continue to receive stronger talents, epic weapons, and completely new mechanics that naturally improve their matchups. Xiang Tzu hasn't received the same level of structural attention, and that's why many long-time players feel like every balance patch just fixes the supernatural symptoms instead of addressing the real problem. And it's not just the balance changes. Even when you look at the rewards other heroes have received over time, Xiang Tzu feels left behind. Many heroes have been given weapons that directly improve their survivability or strengthen what they are already good at. For example, Nona received the rare weapon called Fair Leader, which grants additional defense. Heroes like Ironclad and several others also have access to weapons such as Blossom, which provide defense or shadow-related benefits that can completely change difficult matchups. Meanwhile, Xiang Tzu's weapons don't really solve any of his biggest problems. They don't significantly improve his survivability. They don't make rage less predictable. And they don't help him stay alive long enough to use his strengths consistently. If Nekki doesn't want to buff Xiang Tzu directly, then at least give him a weapon that actually addresses his weaknesses instead of offering small bonuses that barely affect high-level gameplay. And it's not only his weapons. Compared to many other heroes, Xiang Tzu has also been overlooked when it comes to premium cosmetics. We've seen other characters receive legendary skins, exciting new content, and legendary weapon, while Xiang Tzu has received very little compassion. For a hero with such a unique design and such a dedicated player base, he deserves more attention. And now this brings me to the ultimate question. If Xiang Tzu doesn't need more damage, what does he actually need? The answer is simple: defense, specifically his defensive talents. Right now, talents like Pain is Nothing, Immediate Payback, Seeing Red, and Pain is Everything deserves meaningful buffs. As they stand currently, they act as tiny bonuses that barely change difficult matchups. They should actually make a noticeable difference during a high-level match, allowing him to absorb enough pressure to survive long enough to use his unique strengths of his kit. If Nekki really wants Xiang Tzu to return to the meta, they shouldn't just keep increasing the numerical duration of rage. They should strengthen the part of his kit that's been fundamentally broken ever since his major nerfs, his survivability, until they address the core defensive mechanics. Xiang Tzu will continue to receive major number of adjustments without ever truly feeling like a top-tier hero again. And of course, this is just my opinion based on my own experience on the leaderboards and the current metas. If you disagree, I genuinely like to hear why. Like, do you think Xiang Tzu is already balanced where he is, or do you think his survivability needs immediate attention? Let me know in the comment section. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and like this. And I see you guys in another video.